Welcome to another mixing tutorial. My name is Matias Rengel, and today we're going to be taking a deeper look at how to mix a snare drum. Remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel as I'm going to be uploading new videos every day. Let's get down to it. So this is a really cool gospel song that I've been mixing in the couple of days, and let's check it out. So let's solo the snare, which is what we're going to be doing right now. So it's a really tight snare. So why don't we check out how it sounded before and after treatment. That's before. And this is after. So you can tell that the snare has a little bit more body to it, and then it is not ringing as much, which is what I was going for. So remember, whenever you're mixing something, you always have to have in mind what sound you're going for. I am not doing this every day, as I am not every day grabbing a snare sound and just being like, okay, snare needs to sound like this, and this is how the cue should be. Not at all. I am actually just going with the flow and just looking for the sound that fits on the song. So why don't we just bypass every plugin, and let's start by the first one and see what I'm doing there. So in the first plugin, what I'm doing, I am just simply adding a high pass filter. I am adding it up to 90 Hertz, and depending on the instrument, I like to bring up the high pass filter to 140 Hertz or more or less. But in this case, I think 90 Hertz is a good number. So let's check it out before and after. Good. So the next thing that I'm doing, I am adding an EQ. So this is Neutron, and this is one of my favorite EQs. So let's check it out with Neutron and without Neutron. This is with it. This is without it. Cool, so let's check out what I'm doing there. So the first thing that I was trying to do, I was trying to remove some ring from it, which is here. And let me remove 3 and 7. So this is how it would sounded before. And I was not really liking this ring right here. I thought it had too much of it. So I looked for it and I brought it down. That sounds good to me. The next thing I did, I thought the snare had a little bit too much high mid-range, right? And a bit too much mid-range in general. So I brought that down right here at 4,500. You can hear that. So the way that I work with EQs that I personally like to do, I like to listen to the sound and imagine how it could sound better. And from there, I look for frequencies that I dislike and I just bring them down. So for example, in this one, I would just do something like this. Now, once I get the sound there, I bring it down and then I start cutting the frequency to my liking. Now keep in mind that I'm not hunting for frequencies. I have a frequency in mind that I heard in the original sound that I don't like, and I'm trying to remove it. Now the next thing I'm doing, I am removing a little bit of high end. I am putting a low pass filter at around 16 kilohertz. And that's it. And I am increasing a little bit right here at 10 kilohertz. Because I thought, you know, by removing all these things, I thought the snare was missing a little bit of that top end, you know. So let's move on. Let's move on to the next part. So the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to add a transient designer. So this is a really cool transient designer by Izotope. This is part of Neutron, and it is a a multiband transient designer. No, I am in no way sponsored by Izotope. I just happen to love some other products. So this is, as I was saying, this is a multiband transient designer, and I think it's very, very useful because you can divide the frequency, divide the sound in many frequencies and enhance that specific frequency. So in this case, for example, I am lifting up the transient above 1500. Check it out. So what I'm doing right here, let me remove this one and this one right there. Yeah, cool. Let me bring this down. So this is how it sounds, right? So what I'm doing, I'm bringing up this. So this is bringing up the frequency in the transient, which means it's not, if you have a really, really bright extended sound, it's not going to bring it up in its entirety. It is only bringing it up at the very beginning, at the transient, at the highest point. But I felt like the high end was a little bit too much, that it was sustaining too much, so I lowered the sustain in the high end. And it still preserves that top end when it hits, but it's not extended, which I like. Next thing I did, in the ring, I thought it had too much ring, so I brought it down. And I lowered a little bit of low end as well. So this is where the good stuff is about to happen. So the next thing I do, I bring in a compressor. So most of the time what I'll do, I will set up the compressor first, and then I'll put an EQ after the compressor, and I'll start cutting stuff out after the compressor, and then I bring the EQ before the compressor, because I personally like doing all the cuts before the compressor. So here's my chain in the VMR, and let's listen to it without it first, and then I'm going to add it. As you can see, it makes a huge difference. So what I'm doing here, I'm adding a compressor, which is compressing like maybe 2 dBs or 3 dBs. And then I'm adding a saturation. After that, I'm adding another compression, but I am driving the input a lot, which is a really cool feature that this new compressor has. And then I am lowering the compression amount. After that, I am adding an EQ, and I am removing a little bit of the mid-range and a little bit of the low mids, because I felt like it was, sometimes when you add compressors and saturations, some of the frequencies that you don't want, they come up. So this is what I did right there. And then at the end, I just have a VCC, which, there you go. It's a virtual channel, and this emulates the sound of the summing console, the sound that it makes. And right now I have it set to RC Tube, and I am driving it, but I am not. Check it out. I think with drums, you don't want to drive the input a lot, because I mean, I've used real consoles, and whenever you are going above like 3, sometimes it tends to saturate more and a lot, and that's a cool sound if that's what you're going for, but that's not exactly what I was going for here. So I just increase the drive, and I don't let the input go really that high. I could bring it up a lot, and it becomes too saturated to the point that it loses the transient sometimes, and I don't want that. So I keep it there, and they're still transient. What I'm doing here at the end, I am lowering a few more frequencies because I felt that it needed it, and I am lowering a little bit of the lows and the high. Let's check it out. It's very, very subtle. Now, something that I want to let you know that you should always do, whenever you are cutting with your EQ, you should always increase the output, because think about it, you're lowering frequencies and your whole sound is going down. So what you want to do is you want to bring up the output, and you want to maintain the gain stage. And this is what happens a lot of times. You EQ something and you cut the sound, and then you're like, man, it doesn't sound as good. It's because most of the time your volume is lower, so you are hearing the unprocessed version as better only because the volume is louder. Okay. The last thing that I'm adding right here, I am adding an EQ, and I am putting once again a high pass filter at 90 Hz, just in case, because sometimes processing might add by increased sub frequencies and stuff like that. And then at the end, I just have it trimmed so you can hear the difference between everything. So cool.